right, I think we're ready to get started. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Servant Solutions Roth webinar. We've had a great response to this webinar and actually have maxed out our limits on attendance. I'm Jim Obold, President of Servant Solutions, and on behalf of our team, we are very excited to offer this new option as another tool to help you with your retirement planning. Many of you have asked about Roths in the past, and I want you to know that we were listening. And as of January 1st, 2021, we are ready to serve you with this great tool. Now, I'll turn it over to Jeff Janess, our Chief Strategy Officer, as he makes some introductions. Jeff, take it away.
Thank you, and I want to add my welcome to everyone. We're so glad you're here, and it's my distinct honor to introduce our presenters today, Bob Hayman and Aaron Wagner, two people who we love deeply here at Servant Solutions, and you'll know why in just a few minutes as they present to you. Bob Hayman is our Vice President of Financial Planning and Development here at Servant Solutions. He's been with us for just about 2 years now. He's a certified financial planner and conducts all of the activities and moves those processes forward in financial planning for both our clergy and non-clergy employees throughout the church. Bob's the former executive director of the Wesleyan Pension Plan, and he was there and led that charge for 18 years and had over 25 years of experience with the Wesleyan World Headquarters in Indianapolis, Indiana, in the Treasury and Finance divisions. Bob comes with a wealth of experience and knowledge, and you'll be blessed by what he has to share today. The only down thing I can say about him is he is a Taylor graduate, and all of the other people that you will see today are Anderson University graduates. So we'll just leave that at that. Aaron Wagner is our Chief Financial Officer here at Servant Solutions and has been in that role for 5 years and has played literally a transformational role in the way in which we do our internal finance processes as well as the operations of the organization. She heads up all of the finance and audit operations throughout and is a certified public accountant. In addition, she's an Anderson University grad, as I mentioned, and also has her bachelor's degree from Ball State University, as well as then accomplishing her certified public accountant position. Prior to her work with us, she for 3 years taught accounting at the Fall School of Business at Anderson University. And then just prior to that, she spent 9 years as a business advisor and auditor with Katz, Sapper and Miller, a large regional accounting firm in Indianapolis, Indiana. So without any further ado, I hope you'll welcome them. And I'm going to turn this over to Bob Hayman to begin our time today. We will now begin a 15-minute window in their presentation, followed by about a 5-minute time of questions. And then Bob will kind of hang around to make sure all of the questions are even answered beyond that. So we'll respect your time. And Bob, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate that. I'm going to start sharing our presentation here so that we can see everything. And I believe now you guys should be able to see our PowerPoints and everything else like that. Now, just to let you know, I thank Jeff for introducing me and Aaron. Aaron will talk. We're going to share some time here. I'm going to start off and Aaron's going to go. At the end, we're going to have some questions and Ellen's going to help us with all those questions at the end. We're going to record this so that we can send this out to anybody who's saying, hey, I didn't catch that. It's there. Now, we have a short amount of time to talk about all this stuff. So we're going to get through it as quick as possible, but we can't engulf everything in the short amount of time. So hopefully this gives you some information, general information to get us started, and then we can ask questions from here. So let's get started here. So let's go through some of the basics. You know, what is a Roth 403B? Well, first of all, it's a type of elective deferral contribution made with after-tax dollars. So basically what that is hey, we Servant Solutions is a 403B employer plan, and the Roth is just another tool that we can use for our retirement. So it's it's going to be through after-tax dollars, meaning, hey, employer, take a deferral. Elective deferral is just a fancy way of saying, hey, employer, church, take some funds from my paycheck and give them to my retirement account. So that's all that means when we say elective deferral. And it's going to be through after-tax dollars, meaning I've already paid tax on these things, on these funds that I'm contributing over. And it's just another way of doing this so that we can set those funds aside in our retirement account so that when we get to the end, we can take those out on a tax-free basis. So at the beginning, it's after tax. We've already paid all the tax, put it away for retirement so that we can take it out tax-free as long as we followed all those rules that we have to follow. Let's go to the next question. What's the tax advantage for both Roth versus traditional? So as we've already said, the Roth, taxes are paid on the front end. Traditional, and that's what everybody's been doing up until now. Basically, that's pre-tax. That traditional is just pre-tax. Taxes are paid at the back end. So think of it this way, quick and easy. I get paid $20,000, and we'll use the traditional way first. I get paid $20,000, and I want to say, hey, employer, I want to elect to defer $2,000. So in the traditional way, we don't pay, it's called pre-tax. So instead of paying taxes on the 20,000, we're going to only pay taxes on the 18. And so that's everybody. Doesn't have to pay federal tax. For those that are credentialed ministers, they don't have to pay self-employment tax. For those that aren't, we have to pay federal tax or FICA tax. Now, the other side, the Roth, we say, hey, we get paid $20,000. It's after tax. So we look at and we say, hey, same thing, employer, take $2,000 from my paycheck and send that on to my retirement. Well, instead of paying taxes on the 18 the traditional way, well, we're going to pay taxes on the whole 20. And let's move to that last part of that question. Credentialed ministers may have an advantage on both sides. And when we're talking about this, a credentialed minister has the advantage on both sides under traditional means because they have that housing allowance at the end. And I'm going to talk about this again. That housing allowance is the minister's best friend when we get ready to retirement. So we can put pre-tax money away in the traditional way. And if whatever we take out on the back end, we use for housing allowance, we get to do so tax-free for anything that we spend on housing. We still have to follow those IRS rules. So for a minister, that's a great advantage that they have. For us that are non-credentialed ministers, that Roth is going to be that way we can get it through tax-free. Now, let's go on to the next one. If I start a Roth, will I have to open a new account? And the answer to that is no. You simply have one account with Servant Solutions. We're not going to open up a whole new account. We're still going to be investing in the same investments. We're still going to hold everything in one account. You're going to get one statement. It's going to look and feel the same exact way. It's just now we've added another bucket. We've added a Roth element, so we've got another bucket that we have for retirement. Now, and I didn't say earlier, but I have a fact checker. Aaron is going to be my fact checker. And before I go on to the next one, Aaron, do we have anything to add to this?
I don't. I think you did a great job of summarizing it. It just gets really confusing, I think, when you're trying to keep all of the rules straight for each one. So what we've done at Servant is try to make it as easy as possible for you by, like Bob said, only having one account, making sure that you're following all the same procedures you've done before. But instead, when you send in your dollars, you're going to mark them as Roth dollars instead of as pre-tax dollars. That will really be the only difference. Or, as we'll talk about in a little bit, you can do both if you want to do both. So that's it.
All right, let's move on to the next slide. And we're going to let Aaron take it from here.
Yeah, so because I'm on the operations side of things here at Servant Solutions, these next ones fall under me just a little bit more. As Bob mentioned, when you're starting up to make Roth contributions, you don't have to fill out a new membership application. You don't have to fill out any forms with Servant Solutions. You do have to fill out a form with your employer, though. They need to know that they need to treat your paycheck differently than how they've been treating it. So they have been doing, as Bob explained, traditional contributions. They've been doing them on a pre-tax basis. And so if you're going to make the decision to switch to a Roth, you need to fill out a new salary reduction agreement with your employer, turn it into them. And we have that form on our website. If you go to forms and our forms, you can see the salary reduction agreement there that you could print and fill out and hand to your employer, which would let them know then that you're choosing to defer Roth dollars on an after-tax basis. That's the only form that you would need to fill out. And that does not need to come to Servant Solutions either. You would keep that. It's a contract between you and your employer, not a contract between you and Servant Solutions. So then your next question might be, what if I want to make traditional pre-tax contributions and Roth after-tax contributions? And the answer is you can do that. You can mix and match as much as you want, as long as you're following your salary reduction agreement that you fill out with your employer, and as long as you stay within your IRS contribution limits. So for 2021, that contribution limit is $19,500. You can't contribute more than $19,500 combined of pre-tax and Roth contributions. If you're 50 or over, you can contribute an additional $6,500. So for people who are 50 and over, you could contribute up to $26,000. And Bob's going to talk a little bit about Roth IRAs as we go through this presentation, but that's a huge benefit to Servant Solutions. That's a much higher limit that you can contribute here than you could contribute to a Roth IRA. And then the last question on this slide, can my employer match my Roth contributions? I think that one's a little tricky, so bear with me. The answer is yes, they can match your Roth contributions. So your employer, if you say, I'm going to give 10% of my salary to Servant Solutions, your employer could match that contribution and also send in 10% of your salary as an employer contribution. The only tricky part there is that they cannot send it in as a Roth. They have to send it in pre-tax. So all employer contributions, those fringe benefits that you get above and beyond your salary, all of those payments are always going to be in your pre-tax traditional bucket. They won't be able to be in your Roth bucket. So employer contributions come in on a pre-tax basis. You get the choice as the employee if you want to do pre-tax or Roth. All right, Bob, your turn to clean me up.
Nope, I have nothing to add. Way to go.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, we're on to the next slide. And can I roll my personal IRA to my Servant Solutions account? And the answer to that is no, but Servant Solutions can accept rollover Roths from other employee-sponsored plans. So that's any kind of other 401k, 403b. And the reason for some of this is because we have different rules for a Roth IRA than we do for a Roth 403b or 401k. So there's different rules. The IRS, we don't know exactly why they don't do this, other than there are some different rules as far as moving that and housing it all in one place. So any kind of Roth IRA, so something you might have on the personal side, we cannot roll that over into your Servant Solutions account. Only something that you might have from other employer plans.
I would add to that, Bob, that they can roll a traditional IRA into the Servant Solutions account. So you might have a traditional IRA or you might have a Roth IRA. If you have a Roth IRA, you may not, and that's, as Bob said, because of the different rules. But if you have a traditional IRA, you can roll that into Servant Solutions.
See, you guys are getting a glimpse of what our office is like. I start talking and Erin cleans me up. She's my fact checker. All right. Next question. Can I convert traditional 403b to a Roth 403b? The answer is yes. The plan will allow rollovers to be designated Roth within the same plan, or within, basically what we're doing is saying, hey, I've got traditional money. Can I now then convert that to Roth? And the simple answer is yes. So I was just talking to somebody the other day. He had an account that was worth $129,000. And he was like, wow, that's a great, I love that idea that I can convert this over. Until I told him, yes, you can, but you have to pay the tax to do that, because in the traditional way, it's pre-taxed. When we convert it over to the Roth, that's when we have to pay tax on those funds. So you can do that, and you can do a little bit. And when I talked to him, it was like, what we want to make sure that we do, if that's something you want to do, incrementally, every year we can do something like that, and we can do some tax planning if that's something you want to do to convert those funds from traditional to the Roth. Aaron, any cleanup?
No, it's just moving. What you would be doing is, you, within your account with Servant Solutions, you would be choosing to move dollars that you've already saved in your traditional bucket into your Roth bucket. And what Bob is saying is, if you choose to move dollars from that traditional bucket with Servant into your Roth bucket with Servant, you can do that. What's called an in-plan conversion, and we would be happy to help you with that. But it is a taxable event. When you're moving from a pre-tax bucket to an after-tax bucket, you have to pay tax on it. So you just have to know that when you make that conversion, you'll get a form that it'll be reported on your tax return, and you'll have a taxable event with that conversion.
All right, we're going to move on to the next question, and I've got a lot of, is a Roth right for me? Roth contributions may reap advantages, tax results for some participants, but could actually harm the outcome for others. We don't have a lot of time for this, so I'm going to go through a lot of things, try to go through a lot of these things quickly as I'm doing this. Now, these are going to be general terms. I can't use everything cookie cutter, and not every situation is going to be, you're going to be unique. So we need to do unique things. I'm going to talk in general terms when I'm talking about this. Whenever we're looking at this, we want to look at, hey, where is it going to help me? Is it going to help me to pay taxes now or later? Most of us don't think we're going to pay less taxes in the future. So that might be something to think about. And because of that housing allowance, and why it may hurt some people, is because of that housing allowance in retirement. And it surprises how many people we talk to haven't heard about the housing allowance in retirement, meaning we can take those funds out tax-free. That's why it may hurt some participants if we do the Roth. They may pay undue taxes because they have that. When I've talked to some people right now, those that are in retirement age now, when I look at their accounts and with what they have, most people, between what they can take out tax-free for housing, what they can do tax-free because of the tax code and the standard deduction, most of these folks can deplete their accounts in 7 years, when we want, on a tax-free basis, when we want these funds to last 20 and 25 years. So they're not paying any taxes. That's when I'm saying, hey, we want to think about these things. Is the Roth right for me or not? Another thing I want to make sure we consider, and I'm trying to do this quickly, hey, we want to diversify not only our investments, but diversify our tax base. Where are we getting our sources of income for retirement? Is it my Roth account? Is it traditional savings? Is it from Social Security? All these type of things. We want to do all of this to take advantage of not paying taxes in the future. So for some people, when I talk about the Roth, because of that housing allowance, it may be the spouse who's not ordained, who doesn't have that housing allowance. It may be more beneficial for that spouse to have the Roth, to have that on a tax-free basis, instead of that pastor credentialed minister, because they don't have that. When we're talking about all this, and this can be my last statement, the goal for determining whether I use a Roth or not is, where is my tax advantage going to be? Is it going to be now, or is it going to be in the future? And the whole idea is to reduce our taxes in retirement. So that makes our money go a lot farther. Now, everybody's going to be unique and different when it comes to these things. I've talked to another couple that are both ordained. A Roth makes a lot of sense for them. Now, and I think we are at or very close to that time frame that we need to be at. Any cleanup, Aaron?
No, you did a great job. I think it's just really tricky. Everyone needs to know that you have access to Bob and to me and to our whole team to walk through that unique individual story of yours to know what makes the most sense. So we're not going to be able to answer all of the unique scenarios in a webinar, but we're available at all times to help answer those questions.
Yep. I'm going to now, if anybody has questions, we're going to let Ellen ask those questions. I've got one question to start off because somebody emailed, and I think somebody else something before. This question was, hey, I'm an individual over 50. I want to invest in a Roth IRA. So that's the personal side. Can I do the $7,000 and my wife do the $7,000? Well, yes, we can. That's the IRA side of things when we're talking about those things. So it's not the 403B side. So yes, you can. We just have to worry about, hey, am I in a plan? And do I have to consider that as far as the contributions and things like that? Most of the time when we're doing the Roth, it's after tax, so we pay taxes. We don't have a lot of limitations on that. Now, as I'm doing something, I want to just quickly show our website really quick. And I'm hoping you can see our website. And on our website, we have Roth information that we go through a lot of details here. Frequently asked questions. What do the employers have to think about? There's some great calculators for traditional and Roth, and then a video that can also add to some of this stuff. So we've got a lot of things available to help you with all of this stuff. Ellen, any questions come in yet?
We actually do, Bob. Question is, can I use my housing allowance for a fifth wheel if I am living out of it full time?
And the answer is if that's our primary living, anything, whether it's a fifth wheel or mobile home, as long as that's our primary living, we can use that housing allowance and we can do those things. Now, some of the things when we talk about Roth, and I'm going to ask a question for somebody, because I think I saw, hey, I'm retired. Does a Roth make sense for me? Well, when we're doing a Roth, we want to make sure that it's in there. It's coming from ministry related funds that we have, and we have some time for that to earn. The younger we are, the better off we're going to be because we have a lot of time for those to earn. The older we are, it might not make as much sense to go into the Roth because we don't have the time for those to earn. Any other questions come in?
Yeah, not at this time. I think you both did a great job going through the webinar.
Good to hear. Aaron, any cleanup?
Okay, we do have a question. As a 66-year-old who is trying to make up for the years of not investing, how much can I save in all venues? 403B, Roth 403B, and IRA.
Well, Aaron talked about one of those. For in the 403B with us, whether it's traditional or Roth, everybody can put in $19,500 for those that are 50 and older, and this is through payroll deduction. As long as we have that taxable compensation to back all this up, we can do another $5,500. So making it $26,000 that we can give through just the 403B side. Can I also add to my personal, traditional or Roth? For that, we have income restrictions and things like that. If I give to a traditional way of an IRA, for the Roth, there are no restrictions and anything like that to give to the personal side. So I would say when you're doing your taxes, talk to your tax guy if you can give the traditional way. The other side, the Roth side, we can give and not have to worry about those limitations.
Great.
Also can have employer contributions. So if you cap out at your 26,000 as someone who's over 50. Your employer can contribute above and beyond that. That limit is very high. It's actually up to $58,000 can be contributed. So if you negotiate for your employer to contribute on your behalf, they can contribute above that $26,000 limit that we mentioned.
Right. We have another question. Why would a minister want to move away from traditional if you are going to use the funds for housing?
That is a great question. I don't think now, I don't want to generalize and lump everybody all in one category. So if you determine, and some of this we can help with if we do a financial plan, if we determine, hey, this is where my trajectory is for saving, and when I get to the end, what's that going to look like? Am I going to be able to use all of that along with whatever the tax code says at that time? Am I going to be able to take this out on a tax-free basis? For some ministers, when I look at this, I don't want them to pay undue taxes by just saying, hey, I'm going to go into the Roth because of that housing allowance. So it takes some planning and some thought about this, and that we're not just jumping in to the Roth because it sounds like a great idea. We want to make sure that it's going to make, hey, do we get an advantage from doing this?
We did a lot of analysis on our end before we decided to offer the Roth. Bob broke up all of our members and tried to look at it. And we have about 50% of our members are not ordained and not eligible for housing, and about 50% are. And that actually was surprising to us. We were expecting it to be a higher percentage that was ordained. And so that's what led us down this path of offering the Roth, because it's a much more convoluted conversation for pastors because of the housing allowance. And so as a pastor, before you decide to jump into the Roth, you should definitely have a conversation with someone here at Servant Solutions. If you aren't ordained, if you aren't credentialed, and you don't have the housing allowance available to you, the Roth starts to make a lot more sense a lot faster. You should probably still have a conversation with us or your CPA or your tax preparer, but it's an easier decision for those who aren't ordained.
Perfect follow-up question. If I am not a credentialed minister, is Roth a no-brainer? Do my contributions go down when I contribute after tax? Where is the tax taken out of?
Yeah.
Great.
So good question. So like we said, we're paying that tax up front. It's going to go into the retirement account to take out tax-free. So I won't say it's a no-brainer, but it's going to be close to it. And it depends on age and different things like that. And we're going to have a tax guide out there with some of these, exactly what you're asking. Hey, what are some of the things I need to consider? How old I am? How much do I have to retirement? Am I maxing things out? So that's going to be pertaining to both credentialed and non-credentialed. For those, where is my tax advantage going to be? Is it going to be now traditional? I will say I'm not credentialed, but for me, it made more sense for me to do it the traditional way because I don't have as much time. Now, somebody younger, like an Erin, it makes a lot of sense for her to do the Roth side of things. I hope that helps.
Yeah, there were a couple of follow-up questions too, Ellen. I don't think we answered. What were those, like the second and third question?
Yes, so let me go back to those. Tell you what, I'm going to move on to a different one. Do you think the housing allowance will be available in 10 years? What did your crystal ball say?
That is a great question. And the short answer is yes. I think it's going to be around. Now, I wrote about this in our newsletter a while back. So basically, is it going to be around? The Supreme Court in 2018 voted that yes, when it went to appeal, that it's constitutional. So the folks that brought this suit, Freedom from Religion, they said, we're not going to bring this up again because we believe the court system, the Supreme Court, sits not in our favor. So even if we get it to the Supreme Court, we're not going to win. So we're not going to spend our time and spin our wheels. So that doesn't mean the future can't change. But do we personally think it's going to be around for a while? Yes, we think it's going to be around for a while.
I I have a personal Roth IRA that I contribute to. Can I still turn my Servant Solutions 403B into a Roth?
And the quick answer is yes. You can always do that. That's the good thing about it. For most of everything we use, the IRS makes things very, what we call portable. So we can go from IRAs, traditional Roth 401ks, 403bs, they make it very portable. So that's the good news. The only thing that's not portable is personal coming into an employer. Employer going to personal is never a problem.
So the follow-up questions that I skipped a moment ago, let's go back to those. Do my contributions go down when I contribute after tax?
So go ahead, Aaron. Do you want to, sounds like you were ready.
No, well, I was just going to say you get to decide how much your contribution is. So you can decide if your pre-tax contribution is $500, you can make your Roth contribution $500. So you get to decide how much your contribution is. But what will happen is your paycheck will go down. So because if you're contributing on a pre-tax basis, you get to pull those dollars out and you're not paying tax on them. So you're paying less tax by contributing on a pre-tax basis. If instead you convert to Roth and you're sending your contributions to us on an after-tax basis, you're going to have to pay tax on that $500. So the $500 still comes to Servant Solutions, but you're paying tax on it. So you're going to have less net pay that you take home because you're paying tax on that $500, where before you were not paying tax on it. So I think I might have answered both questions there, is that the taxes come out of your paycheck. But your contribution to Servant Solutions stays the same. It's whatever you write down on your salary reduction agreement, that's what will come to us.
Excellent. We have one more. What is the difference between a 401k and a 403b?
Good question. So 401k, 403b, it very similar in nature. The only difference for us, 403b, that is the not-for-profit side. And for us, it's the ministry not-for-profit side, which makes a big difference because then we can do that housing allowance in retirement. If we had just a 401k, we couldn't offer that housing allowance. So that's where the difference is. Very similar, except for that one big distinctive reason.
Those numbers and letters are just IRS code. So the IRS code created the ability for an employer to have a 401k and for a nonprofit to have a 403b in that section of the tax code. So we like to talk about it like we're really smart, but all it means is we know the paragraph that it's in the tax code. And the 403b being for nonprofits, what we are is actually a 403b-9. So we sit even further into a subset of the IRS code, and that 9 is what gives us the ability as a church retirement plan to be able to offer housing allowance.
Yeah.
We had a comment in the chat session that's a great addition. 403b is not available to everyone. Would you like to speak to that?
Aaron, you want to go?
A 403b is available if you work for an employer who's a nonprofit or a church and who offers a retirement plan, specifically if they offer the Servant Solutions retirement plan. But not everyone has access to a 403b. You're correct. If you're working for a for-profit company, they're going to offer you a 401k instead of a 403b, and you wouldn't have access to Servant Solutions or to a 403b savings plan.
Great. And we did just get one more question. Can my wife move her 401k into my 403b?
Good question. The quick answer is no. The IRS does not allow us to commingle those funds. We've got to stay with each Social Security number. They don't let us commingle those things. So basically her account has to stay her account. Your account has to stay, husband, wife has to each be the same, but we can't commingle those funds. I know Aaron's going to add more to it.
No, the IRS tracks everything by Social Security number. So you can't mix, even though you're filing a joint return, you can't mix accounts based on Social Security number. So if it's in your wife's Social Security number, it has to stay in her number.
We don't have any more questions. So what I'm gathering is that you two did a fantastic job explaining the Roth composition of the Servant Solutions Plan. We want to thank everybody for being a part of today. Fantastic job. We appreciate you being here. We appreciate you wanting to learn. And just to let you know, we'll be sending out a post webinar survey. We would love to get your feedback. It literally will take you 1, maybe 2 minutes to complete, but it will give us very valuable information. So thank you for that. We'll include a link to this webinar so you can go back and review anything that was said or even the chat questions if you'd like to see those. Thank you so much and have a blessed, blessed day.
Have a good day, everybody.